The champagne flute trembled in my mother's hand as tears rolled down her cheeks. "You're our guardian angel, Meredith. I don't know what we did to deserve you. My name is Meredith Wright, and at 32, I've built a career most people would kill for. Senior marketing strategist at one of San Francisco's top agencies, 6-figure salary, corner office with a view of the bay. But sitting in my parents' cramped dining room in Oakland, watching my mother cry over a birthday dinner I'd paid for, I felt like that same little girl, desperately trying to earn their approval. $85,000, my father said, shaking his head in disbelief. "Meredith, this changes everything. We can actually retire early now." I forced a smile, ignoring the knot in my stomach. That money represented 3 years of brutal saving. No vacations, no designer clothes, ramen dinners more often than I'd admit to my friends. But seeing my parents' faces light up made every sacrifice worth it. "You've always been so responsible," Mom continued, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. "Even as a little girl, you took care of everyone." Unlike Brian, I thought, but didn't say, my younger brother had a gift for making messes other people cleaned up. At 29, he still called our parents for rent money, while I'd been financially independent since college. "Where is Brian tonight, anyway?" I asked, cutting into the store-bought cake. "Oh, he's with Sylvia planning wedding details," Mom said, her whole face transforming. "Did you see her dress? It's a Vera Wang! Can you believe it? Our boy is marrying a girl who wears Vera Wang." Dad nodded approvingly. "That girl's got class. Brian hit the jackpot." I took a sip of wine, tasting something bitter that had nothing to do with the vintage. "Must be expensive. Well, you know how it is," Dad said with a shrug. "You only get married once. We want to give them the wedding they deserve." The word deserve hung in the air like smoke. Brian deserved a dream wedding. I deserved to work myself into the ground to pay for everyone else's dreams. "The venue alone cost more than our first car," Mom laughed, pulling out her phone. "But look at these pictures. It's this gorgeous vineyard in Napa. Sylvia found it on Pinterest. She showed me photos of rolling hills and rustic elegance, the kind of place that charged 5 figures just to unlock the gates." "Sounds magical," I said, my voice steady despite the growing unease in my chest. "We're so blessed," Mom continued. "Both our children are doing so well. You with your career, Brian finding his soulmate. Sometimes I can't believe how lucky we are." Lucky. Right. After dinner, I helped clear the dishes while my parents settled into their recliners to watch the news. The kitchen felt smaller than I remembered, crowded with outdated appliances and faded family photos. In most of them, Brian was front and center, grinning that golden boy smile that had gotten him out of trouble his entire life. "You sure you don't want to stay the night?" Mom called from the living room. "Your old room is exactly how you left it. I have an early meeting tomorrow," I lied, drying the last plate. "But thank you for dinner, and for everything." "Thank you, sweetheart. You've given us the greatest gift." The drive back to San Francisco should have felt triumphant. I'd just handed my parents their retirement dream. I was the hero of this story, the successful daughter who came through when it mattered. So, why did I feel so empty? My phone buzzed with notifications as I sat in traffic on the Bay Bridge. Instagram, Facebook, the usual digital noise. I almost ignored them, but something made me open Facebook instead. The first post in my feed stopped me cold. It was my mother, posting from the restaurant bathroom apparently, because the timestamp was 20 minutes ago. A photo of the 3 of us at dinner, my forced smile frozen in pixels. Blessed beyond measure tonight. Our angel Meredith surprised us with the most incredible gift. Meanwhile, our sweet Brian is planning his dream wedding at the most gorgeous vineyard in Napa. Champagne towers, designer everything. He's always deserved the world, and now he's getting it. Blessed Mom, dream wedding. Proud parents. The post already had 37 likes and a dozen comments gushing about how lucky she was to have such wonderful children. I read it again. Then again. Our angel Meredith gave us a gift. Our sweet Brian deserves the world. The math was simple, even through my shock. $85,000. A Napa vineyard wedding. Champagne towers. Designer everything. My hands shook as I screenshotted the post, my mind racing through possibilities I didn't want to consider. But deep down, I already knew. I waited exactly 72 hours before driving back to Oakland. 3 days to let the rage simmer into something cold and manageable. 3 days to practice the conversation in my head until I could deliver it without screaming. My parents were in the backyard when I arrived, Dad trimming hedges while Mom documented every angle for her Instagram story. She looked up as I slid open the patio door. Meredith, what a nice surprise! I was just showing everyone Dad's gardening skills. Did you know we have over 300 followers now? We need to talk, I said, setting my purse on their patio table with deliberate calm. Dad looked up from his hedge trimmer. Everything okay, sweetheart? I saw your Facebook post about Brian's wedding. Mom's face lit up. Isn't it exciting? The venue is even more beautiful than the photos. Sylvia has such an eye for... How much is it costing? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Mom's smile flickered. Well, you know weddings these days, she said, suddenly fascinated by her phone screen. Everything's so expensive. How much, Mom? Dad set down his trimmer and wiped his hands on a rag. Meredith, what's this about? It's about the $85,000 I gave you for retirement. The money I saved for 3 years. The money that was supposed to help you stop working. It is helping us, Mom said quickly. We're so much less stressed now knowing we have that cushion. Cushion? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you took my retirement gift and turned it into Brian's wedding fund. The silence stretched between us like a fault line. Now, hold on, Dad said, his voice taking on that defensive edge I remembered from childhood arguments. We didn't take anything. That money was a gift. A gift for your retirement. And we're using it responsibly, he continued. Some of it went to the wedding, yes, but... How much? Meredith, Mom interrupted. You're being very dramatic about this. How? Much. Dad sighed. About half. The number hit me like a physical blow. $42,000, almost half of everything I'd sacrificed. You gave my money to Brian without even telling me. It's not your money anymore, Dad said, his jaw set. You gave it to us. What we do with it is our decision. Besides, Mom added, you'll make that money back. You have a good job, a bright future. This wedding is once in a lifetime. I stared at them. These people who raised me, who taught me right from wrong, who are now looking at me like I was the unreasonable one. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. I work myself into the ground, save every penny for 3 years, give you my financial security as a gift, and you think it's okay to secretly fund Brian's party with it. It's not a party, Mom snapped. It's a wedding. It's important." "More important than honesty?" Before they could answer, Mom's phone rang with a FaceTime call. Brian's face filled the screen, all perfect teeth and casual confidence. "Hey, family," he said, apparently oblivious to the tension. "Just wanted to show you the cake tasting photos. Sylvia's posting them on her Instagram story." "Brian," I said, stepping into view of the camera. Perfect timing. His smile widened. "Meredith! Mom told me you're coming to the wedding. Isn't that great? You'll love the venue. It's like something out of a magazine." "I bet it is. Expensive magazines." "Worth every penny," he said, completely missing my tone. "Sylvia deserves the best. We both do, after everything we've been through." "Everything you've been through?" I repeated. "Like what? Having your wedding paid for by someone else?" His expression shifted slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean the $42,000 of my money that's currently funding your dream day." Brian blinked, then looked off camera. "Mom, what's she talking about?" "It's complicated, honey," Mom said quickly. "We'll explain later." "No," I said, stepping closer to the phone. "Let me explain. I gave our parents my life savings to help them retire. They took half of it and gave it to you for your wedding, without telling me, without asking me, without even acknowledging that it was my money in the first place." Brian was quiet for a long moment. Then he shrugged. "I mean, you're invited, aren't you? What more do you want?" The casual dismissal hit harder than any insult could have. This was my brother, the person I'd protected and covered for our entire lives, asking what more I could possibly want beyond watching him spend my money. "I want my family to treat me like I matter," I said quietly. "You do matter," Mom said. "You matter so much. That's why we knew we could count on you. To pay for everything. To be part of the family," Dad corrected. "This wedding benefits all of us. It brings us together." I looked around the backyard where I'd played as a child, where I'd dreamed of growing up to be someone who mattered, someone who was valued for more than her bank account. "I need to go," I said, grabbing my purse. "Meredith, don't leave angry," Mom called after me. But I was already walking away, my mind spinning with a realization that felt both devastating and liberating. They'd never seen me as anything more than a resource to be tapped. Time to show them what happened when the well ran dry. Dexter's law office hadn't changed much in the 2 years since we'd broken up. Same leather chairs, same view of downtown San Francisco, same way he drummed his fingers when he was thinking. What had changed was the careful distance he maintained as I sat across from his desk. "So," he said, reviewing the bank statements I'd brought, "you gave your parents $85,000 with no written agreement about its intended use. It was a gift for their retirement. I was clear about that." "Clear to them, maybe, but legally?" He shook his head. "Meredith, you know better. A gift is a gift. Once you transfer money without conditions, it's theirs to do with as they please." I leaned back in the chair, feeling the weight of my own naivety. "So I have no recourse?" "Legally, no. Morally." He set down the papers and looked at me directly for the first time since I'd walked in. "That's a different story. I'm not looking for legal action, Dexter. I'm looking for information." His eyebrows raised. "What kind of information?" "The kind that helps me understand exactly how my money is being spent." He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. "Meredith, I know that look. That's your, I'm about to destroy someone's quarterly projections look. Maybe I am. These are your parents we're talking about. These are the people who took my life savings and lied to me about it. Dexter sighed and pulled up something on his computer. I did some digging after you called. The vineyard they're using? Silverbrook Estate. High-end place. Their basic wedding package starts at $60,000. $60,000 for basic. That's before flowers, photography, catering upgrades, open bar, transportation. A wedding there can easily hit 6 figures. The numbers swirled in my head. So, they're spending more than what I gave them. Probably, which means they're either dipping into their actual retirement savings, or someone else is contributing. Exactly. He turned his monitor toward me. I also looked into the catering company they're using. Exclusively cash payments. No credit cards, no checks. Everything has to be paid in full 2 weeks before the event. That's unusual. Very. Most caterers work with payment plans, especially for large events. This screams money laundering or tax evasion. I filed that information away. Anything else? The photographer they hired? She's good, but she's also Sylvia's cousin. Family discount maybe, but still charging premium rates. How do you know all this? Dexter smiled for the first time since I'd arrived. Because I'm very good at my job, and because I still care about you enough to spend 3 hours researching your brother's wedding. The admission hung between us like an unfinished conversation from 2 years ago. Thank you, I said quietly. Just promise me you won't do anything stupid. Define stupid. Meredith. I'm not going to break any laws, if that's what you're worried about. That's not what I'm worried about. Before I could ask what he meant, my phone buzzed. A text from Zella. Emergency wine session needed. My place. Now. I showed Dexter the message. Rain check on the lecture about my moral compass. Go, but call me if you need anything. Anything legal? He clarified. An hour later, I was sprawled on Zella's couch with a glass of wine that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. My best friend since college had always been my voice of reason, which made her current expression particularly concerning. Okay, she said, curling up in her chair. Talk to me, and don't leave out any details. I told her everything. The money, the confrontation, the casual way Brian had dismissed my feelings. By the time I finished, Zella was shaking her head. Your family is toxic as hell. Tell me something I don't know. I'm serious, Mer. This isn't just favoritism anymore. This is financial abuse. Dexter said I have no legal recourse. Screw legal recourse. What about emotional recourse? I looked at her over my wine glass. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it's time your family learned what happens when they take you for granted. Zella, I'm not saying burn their house down. I'm saying maybe they need a wake-up call. A big, public, impossible to ignore wake-up call. Like what? Like announcing a few truths at the wedding. The suggestion hit me like lightning. The wedding. The perfect venue where my money would be on full display, where my family would be performing their happiness for everyone to see. That's insane, is it? They used your money to throw a party. Maybe it's time you gave a speech about generosity and family values. I could picture it, the microphone, the captive audience, the moment when everyone realized where the money had really come from. Zella, that would destroy them. Good. They destroyed your trust. They destroyed your financial security. They destroyed your relationship with them. Why shouldn't there be consequences? Because they're my family. No, she said firmly. Family doesn't do what they did to you. Family doesn't lie and steal and gaslight you into thinking you're being unreasonable. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number. You don't know the full story. Let's talk. Jeffrey. I showed Zella the message. Who's Jeffrey? I have no idea. Well, she said, refilling our wine glasses. Looks like someone wants to help you find out what you're really dealing with. Should I respond? Absolutely. But first, promise me something. What? Promise me that whatever you decide to do, you'll make sure you're still standing when the dust settles. Revenge is sweet, but it can also burn the person serving it. I stared at the mysterious text message, feeling something shift inside me, something cold and calculating and utterly focused. I promise, I said. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I meant it. Jeffrey turned out to be exactly what I'd expected from a Napa Vineyard wedding planner. Perfectly pressed khakis, a smile that could sell ice to penguins, and the kind of nervous energy that came from managing rich people's expectations for a living. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Napa, far enough from Silverbrook Estate that no one would accidentally spot us together. He was already seated when I arrived, fidgeting with his phone and glancing toward the door every few seconds. Meredith? He asked as I approached his table. That's me. Thanks for reaching out, Jeffrey. He gestured for me to sit, then immediately leaned forward like he was sharing state secrets. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but something about your family's situation has been bothering me for weeks. What kind of something? The payment structure, for starters. Your parents put down a deposit in February, then radio silence for 2 months. Suddenly, last week they show up with $42,000 in cash. Cash? Bundled hundreds. Your mother counted it out on my desk like she was buying a used car. He shook his head. In 20 years of wedding planning, I've never seen anything like it. Did they say where it came from? Your father mentioned a family contribution, but he was vague about it. Your mother kept talking about how blessed they were to have such a generous daughter. The words hit exactly as intended. They told you I paid for it. Not directly, but the implication was clear. Jeffrey pulled out his tablet and swiped through some files. Then there's the other issue. Other issue? Sylvia's family was supposed to cover the flowers in her dress. $28,000 total. They backed out last week, claiming a family emergency. Guess who got stuck with that bill? My parents. Your parents, who then called me in a panic because they were suddenly short on funds. He showed me an email chain. Look at this. The messages were a masterclass in financial chaos. Sylvia's mother apologizing profusely. Sylvia herself promising to figure something out. My mother frantically asking about payment plan options. So, they used more of my money to cover what Sylvia's family should have paid. That's what it looks like to me. Jeffrey closed the tablet and studied my face. I'm telling you this because I've seen families destroy themselves over wedding expenses. The stress, the resentment, the financial strain. It never ends well. What made you reach out to me specifically? Your mother mentioned you work in marketing, strategic planning, client management, that sort of thing. I figured if anyone could handle this situation diplomatically, it would be you. I almost laughed. Diplomatically. If only he knew what I was actually planning. I appreciate you telling me all this, Jeffrey. It helps me understand the full picture. There's one more thing. He hesitated, then pulled up the wedding timeline on his tablet. I need to finalize the reception schedule. Your parents mentioned you might want to give a toast. They did. Your mother specifically asked me to make sure there was time for family speeches. She said you were so instrumental in making the wedding happen, it would be wrong not to acknowledge your contribution. The irony was so perfect, it felt scripted. What would that involve? Just let me know if you want to be added to the program. I can slot you in right after the father of the bride speech, before we cut the cake. That sounds perfect. Jeffrey smiled, clearly relieved to have one less detail to worry about. Great. I'll add you to the list. As he typed on his tablet, I noticed the guest management system was still open. Names, table assignments, dietary restrictions, all laid out in neat digital rows. That's quite a system you have there. It has to be. 300 guests, multiple dietary needs, seating politics. One mistake and the whole reception falls apart. 300 guests? That seems like a lot. It is. Your brother and Sylvia wanted to invite everyone they'd ever met, apparently. The final head count came in last week. He turned the tablet slightly, and I caught a glimpse of the guest list. My name was there, assigned to table 12. Not the family table. Not even close to the family table. Table 12 looks nice, I said casually. Oh, that's just a placeholder. I can move you wherever you'd like. Family should sit together, right? Actually, table 12 is fine, but could you add me to the toast schedule? I'd love to say a few words about family and generosity. Of course. How much time do you need? 5 minutes should be plenty. Jeffrey made a note. Perfect. And just so you know, we'll have the full AV setup running. Microphone, projector screen for photos, the works. Your parents really went all out. They certainly did. We finished our coffee and shook hands outside the cafe. Jeffrey headed back to his vineyard, probably feeling good about facilitating family harmony. I sat in my car for a long moment, processing everything I'd learned. 42,000 of my dollars, 28,000 more to cover Sylvia's family's broken promises. My name relegated to table 12, while my money paid for everything. And now I had 5 minutes on a microphone, in front of 300 people, with a projector screen at my disposal. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hope you enjoyed your coffee with Jeffrey. Some secrets are worth sharing. A friend. I looked around the parking lot, but saw nothing suspicious. Just tourists and wine enthusiasts going about their day. Someone was watching. Someone who knew about my meeting with Jeffrey. Someone who wanted me to know they were watching. I started my car and pulled out of the parking lot, my mind already racing ahead to what I needed to do next. First, I needed to figure out who my mysterious friend was. Then, I needed to prepare for the most important 5-minute presentation of my career. The mysterious text led me down a rabbit hole I never expected. After some creative social media stalking, I discovered my friend was likely someone from Sylvia's inner circle. Someone with access to wedding planning details and a grudge worth sharing. It took 3 days of digital detective work, but I finally found him. Gideon Martinez, personal trainer, aspiring influencer, and, according to his Instagram stories, someone who'd been conspicuously absent from all of Sylvia's recent posts, despite being tagged in dozens of workout photos over the past year. I found his gym in Berkeley and showed up during what I'd calculated was his usual Thursday afternoon session. He was exactly what I'd expected, perfectly sculpted, aggressively tan, and currently deadlifting twice my body weight. Gideon? I approached during his rest period. I'm Meredith. I think we need to talk about Sylvia. His face went through several expressions before settling on suspicious. "Who are you?" "I'm the sister of the groom, and I think you might be able to help me understand some things about my future sister-in-law." He set down his weights and grabbed a towel. "I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because someone's been sending me very interesting messages about secrets worth sharing. Someone who knows about wedding planning meetings and family drama." Gideon's jaw tightened. "Look, I don't want any trouble. I'm trying to move on with my life." "Move on from what?" He glanced around the gym, then nodded toward a quieter corner. "From her. From all of it. She made her choice." "What choice?" "The choice to marry someone else while telling me she was just waiting for the right time to break up with him." The pieces clicked into place. "How long were you two?" 8 months, right up until 3 weeks ago when she suddenly stopped returning my calls." He pulled out his phone and showed me their text thread. The last message was from Sylvia. "I can't do this anymore. Please don't contact me again." That was it? No explanation? Nothing. One day we're planning a weekend in Tahoe. The next day I'm blocked on everything except text messages. His voice cracked slightly. "I thought we had something real." "Did she ever mention the wedding?" "She said it was complicated, that she was trapped in this engagement because of family expectations, but she was going to find a way out." He scrolled through older messages. "Look at this." The texts were damning. Sylvia complaining about Brian's immaturity, calling the wedding a performance for his parents, talking about how she deserved better but needed to play the game until she could figure out her exit strategy. "She was using you." "Yeah, I figured that out, but not before I fell for all of it." He looked at me carefully. "Why are you showing me this? What do you want?" "I want the truth to come out. My family is spending a fortune on this wedding, and they deserve to know who they're really celebrating." "And you think I'm going to help you blow up her wedding?" "I think you deserve better than being someone's secret backup plan." Gideon was quiet for a long moment, staring at his phone. "She called me Gideon during a dress fitting last week." "What?" "Your brother. She was on FaceTime with him, talking about alterations or something, and she accidentally called him Gideon. Then she laughed it off like it was nothing." "You heard this?" "I was there, at the bridal shop. She told me she needed moral support for a family obligation." "I thought she meant shopping with her mom." He shook his head. "I should have realized then that I was the other guy." "Will you help me?" "Help you do what? Show people who she really is. Show my brother what he's actually marrying." Gideon looked around the gym again, then back at me. "What would that involve?" "Screenshots of your conversations. Proof that she was planning to leave him right up until 3 weeks ago." "That would destroy him." "She was going to destroy him anyway. At least this way he finds out before he signs the marriage certificate." He was wavering. I could see it in his face. "Look," I said gently. "I'm not asking you to stand up at the altar and object. I'm asking you to let the truth speak for itself. Don't you think my brother deserves to know what kind of person he's about to legally bind himself to?" "And what about you? What do you get out of this?" "Justice. My family has been lying to me and using my money to fund this fairy tale. Maybe it's time everyone learned what fairy tales actually cost." Gideon stared at his phone for another long moment, then started screenshotting messages. "I want to be kept out of it. No names, no direct quotes that could be traced back to me." "Deal." And I want her to know that someone cared enough about the truth to speak up. She'll know. He handed me his phone. Send these to yourself. But, Meredith. Yeah. Make sure you're ready for the fallout. Once you light this fuse, there's no putting it back. I forwarded the screenshots to my email, then handed back his phone. There's already been fallout. I'm just making sure it lands where it belongs. That evening, I sat in my apartment organizing everything I'd gathered. Bank statements, text messages, wedding expense breakdowns, Jeffrey's timeline. I uploaded it all to a USB drive shaped like a lipstick tube, a gift from Zella that I'd never found a use for until now. As I tucked the drive into my clutch, I whispered to my reflection in the mirror. Lights. Camera. The rest of the sentence hung unspoken, but I could feel it building in my chest like a storm. 3 days until the wedding. 3 days until my family learned what happened when they mistook kindness for weakness. 3 days until everyone discovered the real cost of their fairy tale. The crimson slip dress had been an impulse purchase 3 months ago, hanging in my closet with tags still attached. As I slipped it on Saturday morning, I realized it was perfect for today. Bold, impossible to ignore, and the exact color of the wine that would be flowing at my brother's reception. The color of blood Zella had texted when I sent her a photo. Perfect choice. Silverbrook Estate looked like something out of a magazine spread. Rolling hills dotted with grapevines, rustic wooden structures that probably cost more to maintain than most people's salaries, and enough fairy lights to power a small city. My $42,000 had bought quite the backdrop. I parked between a Tesla and a BMW, checking my clutch one more time. The lipstick-shaped USB drive sat nestled between my phone and credit cards, innocuous as a breath mint. Meredith! I turned to see my mother rushing toward me, her face a mixture of relief and horror. She was wearing a dusty rose dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her hair styled into submission by what had clearly been a very expensive professional. You came, she said, reaching for a hug that I allowed but didn't return. Of course I came. I wouldn't miss my brother's big day. That dress is very bold. Thank you. You look lovely too, Mom. The color suits you. She glanced around nervously. Your father's greeting guests by the ceremony area. Brian's getting ready in the bridal suite. Everything's going perfectly. I'm sure it is. You've put a lot of effort into making this day special. We all have. Her smile was strained. I'm so glad we could work everything out as a family. Work everything out? You know, the little misunderstanding about the money. I knew you'd come around once you saw how beautiful everything turned out. The casual dismissal of my financial sacrifice as a little misunderstanding should have surprised me, but it didn't. This was exactly who my mother had always been. It certainly is beautiful, I agreed. Every penny well spent. Exactly. Now, let me show you to your table. Jeffrey has you seated with some lovely people. She led me through the reception area, past tables draped in ivory linens and centerpieces that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Table 12 was exactly where I'd expected it to be. Far from the family tables, close to the kitchen doors, surrounded by people I'd never met. This looks perfect, I said, setting my clutch on the table. Wonderful. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. I should go check on Brian. As she hurried away, I took a moment to survey the scene. 300 guests milling around, servers carrying champagne flutes, photographers capturing every angle of the fairy tale my money had purchased. Meredith? I turned to find Jeffrey approaching, looking harried but professional in his perfectly pressed suit. "Everything looks incredible, Jeffrey. You've outdone yourself. Thank you. I wanted to confirm your toast timing. You're scheduled right after Sylvia's father speaks, before the cake cutting. About 5 minutes, right?" "That's perfect." "Great. The AV tech will have everything ready. Microphone, projector screen, the works." He paused. "Is there anything specific you need for your presentation?" "Just the standard setup. I have everything I need right here." I patted my clutch. "Wonderful. Oh, and Sylvia asked me to mention that she's so grateful you could make it. She knows how important family is." "Family is everything," I agreed. "Speaking of which, I should probably find my seat for the ceremony." Jeffrey nodded and hurried off to manage whatever crisis was undoubtedly brewing in the kitchen. I made my way toward the ceremony area, a perfectly manicured lawn with white chairs arranged in neat rows, facing an arch covered in flowers that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The guests were beginning to take their seats. I recognized some faces from family gatherings over the years, but most were strangers. Brian and Sylvia's friends, colleagues, the extended network of people who would witness their perfect day. "Meredith!" My father appeared at my elbow, looking distinguished in his rented tuxedo. "You look beautiful, sweetheart. That's quite a dress." "Thank you, Dad. Everything looks amazing. You and Mom should be very proud." "We are. This is exactly what Brian deserves." "It certainly is." The string quartet began playing, signaling the start of the ceremony. I found an aisle seat 3 rows from the back, close enough to see everything but far enough away to avoid the family photos. Brian appeared at the altar, looking nervous but happy, his groomsmen flanking him in matching grey suits. The music swelled, and Sylvia began her walk down the aisle in a dress that cost more than some people's cars. She looked radiant, glowing, like a woman who had successfully manipulated an entire family into funding her dream wedding while keeping her backup plan warm until the last possible moment. The ceremony was everything a wedding should be. Beautiful words about love and commitment, tears from the mothers, nervous laughter from the groom. I watched it all with the detached interest of someone observing a performance, because that's what this was. A performance. And in about 2 hours, I was going to give the closing act. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. The crowd erupted in applause as Brian and Sylvia sealed their union with a kiss that would have been perfect for their wedding album. I clapped along with everyone else, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. As the happy couple walked back down the aisle, Sylvia's eyes found mine for just a moment. Her smile flickered, almost imperceptibly, before snapping back into place. She knew something was coming. Maybe not what, but something. Good. Let her wonder. The reception was about to begin, and I had a toast to prepare. The reception was in full swing by the time Jeffrey approached my table with a wireless microphone. The champagne had been flowing for an hour, loosening tongues and lowering inhibitions. Perfect timing. "Ready for your toast?" he asked, handing me the mic. "Absolutely." I made my way to the small stage area where a projector screen had been set up for the slideshow of childhood photos that had played during dinner. The AV tech nodded at me as I plugged in my USB drive. "Testing, testing," I said into the microphone. The sound system crackled to life, drawing attention from across the reception tent. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please." Conversations died down as 300 faces turned toward me. I spotted my parents at the head table, my mother beaming with pride, my father raising his champagne glass in anticipation. Brian and Sylvia sat hand in hand, both glowing with newlywed bliss. For those who don't know me, I'm Meredith, Brian's older sister. I've had the privilege of watching my little brother grow into the man he is today, and I couldn't be more proud to stand here and celebrate this beautiful union. Warm murmurs rippled through the crowd. My mother dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. When I think about family, I think about sacrifice, about the things we do for the people we love, often without recognition or thanks. I think about generosity and how it flows between family members like water finding its level. I clicked to the first slide on my presentation, a photo of Brian and me as children, building sandcastles on a beach vacation our parents had saved for months to afford. Brian has always been special, our golden child, the one who could do no wrong. And as his big sister, I've always been happy to support him, to help him achieve his dreams. More approving nods. Sylvia was smiling, but something in her eyes had shifted. She sensed the change in tone even if she couldn't identify it yet. In fact, just 3 months ago, I was able to help make today possible in a very concrete way. I clicked to the next slide. My bank statement, with the $85,000 withdrawal highlighted in yellow. You see, I gave our parents $85,000, my life savings, 3 years of brutal saving, no vacations, no luxuries. I gave it to them as a retirement gift, believing I was helping them achieve financial security in their golden years. The murmur in the crowd changed pitch. Confusion replaced warmth. But then I discovered something interesting about generosity and family values. Click. The next slide showed my parents' bank records, with the $42,000 transfer to the wedding venue clearly marked. It turns out that half of my retirement gift to my parents went directly to funding this beautiful celebration. My money paid for this venue, this catering, these flowers you're admiring. The silence was deafening now. I could see my father starting to rise from his chair, but my mother grabbed his arm. Now, I want to be clear. I don't begrudge anyone a beautiful wedding. Love should be celebrated, but I do think honesty should be celebrated too. Click. The next slide showed Sylvia's family's broken promise to pay for flowers and dress, with the email chain Jeffrey had shown me. Especially when that love is built on such solid foundations. Click. The first screenshot of Sylvia's texts with Gideon appeared on screen. The timestamp was clear, 2 weeks before the wedding. I can't do this anymore with Brian. He's so immature. I deserve better than this performance for his parents. Gasps erupted throughout the tent. Sylvia shot to her feet, her face white as her wedding dress. That's not... Those are fake. Are they? I clicked to the next screenshot. Here's another one from the same conversation. The wedding is just a game I have to play until I figure out my exit strategy. Stop this! Brian stood up, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me is that I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, while you got everything handed to you. What's wrong with me is that I sacrificed my financial future for people who see me as nothing more than a bank account. Click. Another screenshot. I'm only staying with him because breaking up now would be too complicated. After the wedding, I'll find a way out. Sylvia was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Those messages were taken out of context. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Click. The final screenshot, dated just 3 weeks ago. I found someone who actually appreciates me. Once I figure out how to handle the family situation, I'm done with this charade. The tent erupted in chaos. Guests were talking over each other, some standing to get a better look at the screen, others pulling out their phones to record the meltdown. "Meredith, stop this right now!" My mother's voice cut through the noise. "Why? Because it's embarrassing? Because people might realize that your perfect son married someone who was planning to leave him before the ink dried on the marriage certificate? You're destroying everything!" my father shouted. "No, Dad. I'm revealing what was already destroyed. You destroyed my trust when you stole my money. Sylvia destroyed this marriage before it even began. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." I raised my champagne glass, the one I'd been holding throughout the entire presentation. "So here's to family, to generosity, to the people who sacrifice everything for the ones they love, and to the people who take that sacrifice for granted." I took a sip, then set the glass down on the podium. "And here's to karma, because sometimes the universe needs a little help delivering justice." The microphone feedback screeched as I set it down and walked off the stage. Behind me, the chaos intensified. Sylvia was sobbing. Brian was shouting. My parents were frantically trying to explain to horrified relatives. I walked calmly through the crowd, ignoring the stares and whispered comments, and headed for the parking lot. My phone was already buzzing with calls and texts, but I ignored them all. Except one. "Unknown number. Well played. Your friend?" I smiled and slipped the phone back into my clutch. The fairy tale was over. Time to see who was left standing when the dust settled. Dexter's office felt like a sanctuary compared to the media circus my life had become. The wedding video had gone viral. Someone had live-streamed my toast, and now Show Wedding Revenge was trending on 3 different platforms. "So," Dexter said, sliding a folder across his desk, "Sylvia's lawyer wants to discuss defamation charges." "Let them discuss it." "Meredith, they're claiming you fabricated those text messages." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots I'd saved directly from Gideon's device. "Hard to fabricate metadata. Plus, I have the original source willing to testify if needed." "About that, Gideon's been getting death threats from Sylvia's friends. He's scared. He'll be fine. The truth protects him." Dexter leaned back in his chair. "What about your family? Have you heard from them?" "Brian called 67 times yesterday. I blocked his number this morning." "And your parents?" "Radio silence, which is exactly what I expected." My phone buzzed with a text from Zella. "Turn on Channel 7. Now." I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local news. There was Sylvia sitting in what looked like a professional interview setup, dabbing her eyes with tissues. "The messages were taken completely out of context," she was saying to the reporter. "I was going through a difficult time, having doubts like any bride does. But I love Brian. I've always loved Brian." "What about the person you were texting with?" the reporter asked. "That was just a friend helping me work through my pre-wedding anxiety. Nothing inappropriate happened." Dexter snorted. "She's good. I'll give her that." The interview continued with Sylvia painting herself as the victim of a vindictive sister-in-law who couldn't handle her brother's happiness. She was convincing, sympathetic, perfectly coached. Then the reporter's expression changed. "We've actually obtained additional messages that seem to contradict your timeline, Sylvia. Would you like to respond to these?" The screen filled with more screenshots, ones I hadn't used in my presentation. Messages where Sylvia explicitly discussed physical intimacy with Gideon, made specific plans to leave Brian after the honeymoon, even joked about milking the family for everything they're worth. Before making her exit, Sylvia's face crumbled. Those aren't... Where did you get those? A source close to the situation provided them to our newsroom this morning. I looked at Dexter. I didn't give them anything else. Then who... My phone rang. Unknown number. This is Meredith. Hello, Meredith. This is Gideon. I think it's time we talked properly. An hour later, I met Gideon at the same Berkeley gym where this had all started. He looked exhausted, but determined. I gave the rest of the messages to the news, he said without preamble. All of them. The ones where she talked about using your family's money to fund her escape plan. The ones where she laughed about your parents being easy marks. Why now? Because she went on TV and called me a liar. Because she's trying to destroy both of us to save herself. He pulled up a news article on his phone. Look at this. The headline read, "Wedding Crasher's Accomplice. Local trainer admits to fabricating evidence." She's claiming you paid me to create fake messages, that this whole thing was a setup because you were jealous of your brother's happiness. That's insane. That's Sylvia. She's been planning this counterattack since the moment you walked off that stage. So, what happens now? Now the truth comes out. All of it. I've given everything to the reporters. Phone records, timestamps, even security footage from the gym showing her here when she was supposed to be wedding planning. My phone buzzed. A call from Brian. I answered. Meredith. His voice was hollow, defeated. We need to talk. Do we? I saw the news, the additional messages, the timeline. A long pause. I'm sorry. For what, specifically? For not listening, for not seeing what was happening, for letting them use your money without telling you. And for treating you like you didn't matter, like your feelings didn't count as long as everyone else was happy. I looked at Gideon, who was pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. Where's Sylvia now? Gone. Took half our wedding gifts and disappeared sometime last night. Left a note saying she couldn't handle the pressure. I'm sorry, Brian. No, you're not. And you shouldn't be. You tried to warn me and I wouldn't listen. What about Mom and Dad? They're processing. Dad keeps saying you went too far, but Mom's been quiet. I think she knows you were right. And the money? I'll pay you back. Every penny. It might take time, but keep it. What? Keep the money. Consider it my wedding gift to you. A very expensive lesson about the people you choose to trust. The line was quiet for a long moment. Meredith, I know I don't deserve it, but is there any chance we can fix this? Our family, I mean. I watched Gideon pack up his gym bag, preparing to face whatever came next with dignity intact. I don't know, Brian. Trust isn't something you can just rebuild with an apology. But you're not saying no. I'm saying actions matter more than words. Show me you've learned something from this, and maybe we can talk. I hung up and turned to Gideon. What will you do now? Start over, I guess. New gym, new clients, new life. What about you? Same thing. New boundaries, new priorities, new definition of family. We walked out of the gym together, into the California sunshine that felt different somehow, cleaner. Do you regret it? Gideon asked as we reached our cars. Which part? All of it. The revenge, the public humiliation, burning it all down. I considered the question seriously. The viral videos, the news coverage, the family relationships that might never recover. No, I said finally. I don't regret it. Even though it cost you your family. It didn't cost me my family. It revealed what my family actually was. I got in my car and rolled down the window. Besides, revenge doesn't give you wings, Gideon. It just helps you bury the ashes. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with a text from Zella. Dinner tonight. I'm buying. We need to celebrate your freedom. I smiled and typed back. Absolutely. But I'm buying. I can afford it now. For the first time in years, that was completely true,